Can you see that? Okay, good. सर्वशास्त्राभिपीयूष सर्ववेदैकसत्फल सर्वसिद्धान्तरत्नाढ्य सर्वलोकैकदृक्प्रद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवत प्रभो कलिद्वान्तोदितादित्य श्रीकृष्ण परिवर्तित परमानंद पाठाय प्रेम वर्ष्यक्षराय ते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्याय श्रीकृष्णाय नमोऽस्तु मे मदेकबन्धो मत्सङ्गिन् मद्गुरो मन्महाधन मन्निस्तारकमद्भाग्य मदानन्द नमोऽस्तु ते असाधु साधुतादायिन् अतिनीचोच्चताकर हानमुञ्च कदाचिन्माम् प्रेम्णा हृतकण्ठयो स्फुर ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनः हृद्यन्तस्तो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सताम् नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भवति नैष्टिकी
भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टकी
तदा रजस्तमो भावाः
तदा रजस्तमो भावा
कामलोभादयश्च ये
कामलोभादयश्चये
चेतयेतैरनाविद्धम्
चेतयेतैरनावृद्धम्
स्थितं सत्त्वे प्रसीदति
स्थितं सत्त्वे प्रसीदति
एवं प्रसन्नमनसो
एवं प्रसन्नमनसो
भगवद्भक्तियोगतः
भगवद्भक्तियोगतः
भगवत्तत्त्वविज्ञानम्
भगवत्तत्त्वविज्ञानम्
मुक्तसङ्गस्य जायते
मुक्तसङ्गस्य जायते
भिद्यते हृदयग्रन्थिः
भिद्यते हृदयग्रन्थिः
छिद्यन्ते सर्वसंशयाः
छिद्यन्ते सर्वसंशयाः
क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि
क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि
दृष्ट एवात्मनीश्वरे
दृष्ट एवात्मनीश्वरे
हरे कृष्णा
हरे कृष्ण
कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे हरे
कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे
हरे राम
हरे राम
राम राम हरे हरे
राम राम हरे हरे
जय श्री श्री राधा गिरिधारी भगवान की
जय।
Okay, so we have completed the first 3 verses of the Bhagavatam. Does anybody have any questions, anything at all relating to the first 3? Okay, if you have no questions, we can start with our exam, right?
Yeah. And you can write the answers.
No, okay. So now the first 3 verses, the first verse praised the Supreme. The first verse was in praise of Lord who?
Vasudev.
Vasudeva.
That's correct. It was in praise of Lord Vasudeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The next 2 verses were in praise of
Bhagavatam.
the Bhagavatam itself. Yeah. So the first, so now remember, these verses have been written by Vyasadeva. Okay. So the actual Bhagavatam has not yet started. The first 3 verses are considered the invocation. Okay. So they are like the Mangalacharanam for the Bhagavatam written by Vyasadeva himself. So the first one praises the Supreme Lord, and the second and the third praise the Bhagavatam. Now, usually Mangalacharan serves many purposes. One, of course, is to invoke auspiciousness. The other purpose is that it gives us an understanding of what topics are going to come following in the work. So here we know from reading the Mangalacharanam that the Bhagavatam is going to be praising Lord Sri Krishna, and that the Bhagavatam itself is very pure, and that everyone must read it and relish it. Okay. So obviously, day one, the relishing is not going to start. Day one, it's just going to be, oh my God, it's such a big fat book and all these words, nothing makes sense at all. How am I even going to get through the first chapter? Right? But if we continue, then like we read in our Mangalacharanam, it says, vidyate hridaya grantish chidyante sarva samshayaha. So our heart is actually very tight, very hard. It's got lots of knots in it. So by reading the Bhagavatam, all those knots will get cut and our heart will become softer and softer. And then all our doubts will start getting cleared. So doubt means what? I read it, I don't understand. What am I reading? Why am I reading? That itself is a big doubt. Yeah. But once the heart gets softer, then automatically everything just opens up. And then, whoa, this is the best work. I don't want to be away from it. I'm not there yet. Huh? I'm just saying what others are saying. Okay. Huh? So, विद्यते हृदयगन्ते छिद्यन्ते संशयाः क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि. And all the karmas, so the desire for getting, this and that, so for that we perform activities, all of that will quietly start to settle down automatically. Drishta eva atmanishware, one who is able to perceive. So what happens? The Bhagavatam actually is able to show the Lord within our heart to us. So the first three verses were like the Mangalacharan. So the Lord was praised and the wonderful Bhagavatam itself was praised. Now we come to verse number 4. Now, do you want me to share the screen or do you have it in front of you? I'll share my screen.
Share the screen.
Yeah, I'll share my screen. Okay. नैमिषे निमिषक्षेत्रे
क्षेत्रे
ऋषय शौनकादयः सत्रं स्वर्गाय लोकाय सहस्र सममासत. Naimishe, in the forest known as Naimisharanya. Animisha Kshetre. Now in English you will see this apostrophe coming up. So that is where there is an A, but it's hidden. Okay. It normally happens when you have an A sounding, that is the A sound before the sound. So then the kind of, it's called lupt. It just disappears. Okay? It's elided. And in Devanagari, you get this kind of S looking thing, okay, which you can see over here. Nimishe, and then that S thingy means it's like a short, but you don't normally say it. Okay, it's a half but you don't normally say it. So, Naimishe, in the forest known as Naimisharanya. Animishakshetre, the spot which is especially a favorite of Vishnu, who does not close his eyelids. Rishayaha, sages. Shaunaka Adayaha, headed by the sage Shaunaka. Satram, sacrifice. Swargaya, the Lord who is glorified in heaven. Lokaya, and for the devotees who are always in touch with the Lord. Sahasra, 1000. Samam, years. Asata, performed. Once in a holy place in the forest of Naimisharanya, great sages headed by the sage Shaunaka assembled to perform a great 1000-year sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Lord and his devotees. Now, before we go ahead, let's look at what the word Naimishe or Naimisharanya actually means. Okay. So I'll stop sharing my screen for now, so we can just discuss these things, and then we'll go ahead. I'll share my screen again. So Naimishe. Now, if you see here, we have the S with the dot underneath. Naimishe. Sridhara Swami says this can be either written as Naimishe or it can be written as Naimishe. And in both cases, the meaning is different. Okay. So how is the meaning different? So when it is written as Naimishe, sh, okay, with the dot, with the thingy on top, he says that is given in a work called in a Vedic text called Vayaviya, which means relating to Vayu. Okay, so maybe relating to the Vayu Puran, there is some work or some, but it relates to Vayaviya. Okay, so there is a story which says that some sages came to Lord Brahma and prayed to him and said, "Oh Lord Brahma, please provide for us a place where when we perform any sacrifice, any austerities, the effects are maintained and even multiplied." Okay. So what that means is they wanted to get full benefit of whatever they were doing. They wanted a very pure place. Now we can understand this, can't we? I mean, if somebody tells us, go into the into McDonald's and sit down there and chant your rounds, it's just not going to work. Why? Because that place is not conducive. You say, go to the temple, sit down and chant your rounds. Oh, yeah. Isn't it? So the atmosphere has a lot to do with how we are able to do our activities. So they requested Brahma, give us a place where when we do our pious activities, the effects are enhanced. So Brahma created a wheel within his mind, and he said, wherever this wheel of mine will land, the rim of this wheel, nemi means rim of a wheel. Wherever the rim of this wheel will land, Shriyate. So wherever nemi Shriyate, that place becomes Naimi Sharanya. So it landed in this place called Naimi Sharanya, which is in Uttar Pradesh. Nowadays it's called Nimsar. The place is called Nimsar. So it landed there, and so that is where these sages all then came to do their sacrifice. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that because at this place, even Brahma's mind could attain stability. It is a very powerful place. Now, the second option of writing this is Naimisha, with the tongue going up, retroflex. Naimisha. So that is a story from the Varaha Purana, chapter 11 of the Varaha Purana. So Sridhar Swami quotes that story, and he says that the Lord once appeared to a sage called Gauramukha. And the sage requested him to kill a demon king called Durjaya. So the Lord's Sudarshan Chakra immediately, within the blinking of an eye, so Nimi, okay? So within the blinking of an eye, Nimisha, it killed the demon. And so the Lord says, see, my Sudarshan Chakra did it in the blinking of an eye. So this place will be known as Naimisharanya. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, if we use that spelling, Naimisharanya, then when we place it at the beginning of the Bhagavatam and we start to read it, then it will destroy all the demons within us as well. So that is the power of just reading the name, Naimishe. What? So just like the Sudarshan Chakra could destroy the demon, the name Naimisha can actually destroy all the demons who are inside us. Who are the demons? Lust, anger, greed, envy, all of these. Okay, so that was Naimishe. Animisha Kshetre. Animisha. Lord Vishnu is called Animisha. Okay. Now, why is he called Animisha? Prabhupada says, because he does not close his eyelids. Now, in the Bhagavatam, in the 9th canto, there is a story of King Nimi. Yeah. So Nimi was cursed by Vashishta, and so he had to give up his body. But all the other sages, they requested Vashishta, they said, oh, please forgive him and give him back his life. King Nimi said, no, I don't want a body at all. Because if I get a body, then all problems with the body, I will never be able to do any service for the Lord. I don't want a physical body. So the sages gave him a place on all our eyelids, which is why we blink. So the Devata who sits on our eyelids and makes us blink is called Nimesha. Okay. And therefore, the time taken for one blink is called Nimesha. He is called Nimesha, and the time taken to blink, Nimesha. Now, he sits only on the eyelids of all of us, conditioned souls. The Lord is not conditioned. So he doesn't sit on his eyes, and the Lord never blinks. The Lord is always with wide open eyes. Jagannath, big open eyes. And otherwise, Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu, such beautiful lotus eyes, never closed. So, Animisha Kshetre, Rishayaha. Who is a Rishi? A Rishi is one who takes us beyond the material world by the dint of his knowledge. That is the definition of the word Rishi. In Sanskrit, it says, Rishati prapnoti jnanena samsara param iti Rishihi. So, Rishati prapnoti, one who achieves, allows us to achieve, jnanena, by his knowledge, samsara param, who can take us across this material world. He is a rishi. So what does that mean? That all the rishis who were here were all very, very intelligent. And they were headed by a rishi called Shaunaka. And what did they all gather to do? They all gathered to perform a sacrifice. Satra. Okay. Now, Satram is defined. There is a definition for Satram also. It says where a lot of charity is given, where a number of living entities are fed, and where the doer and the hotra are both the same. So Yajamana and the hotra are the same. That is called a satram. Usually what happens when a king performs a sacrifice, he is not sitting down himself and doing all the sacrifice, right? He gets some priests to do it for him. But in this particular kind of sacrifice, so if the king decides to do a satram, he has to sit down and do it. And usually a satram will last for 12 days. Okay. But here, these sages, they decided that they were going to perform a satram for Sahasra Samam, 1000 years. So apparently, now this, again, Sridhar Swami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, they say that satram, yes, is 12 days. But actually, these sages didn't really know what to do. And they say that later. They say we actually started all this and our faces are black and everything. But we really didn't know what we were doing. We have no idea how to go about it. All we know is that we want the good, the benefit of humanity in general, but we really didn't know how to go about it. So they had started a sacrifice. Now, satram can be of two types, karma satram or brahma satram. Karma satram is when you do for material enjoyment. So they had started a karma satram. But now what will happen? Suta Goswami will come. And when Suta Goswami comes, they convert it from a karma satram to a brahma satram. Brahma satram means where you sit down and listen to katha of Lord Krishna, of Lord Vishnu. So if you can actually think about it, what we are doing here is brahma satram. When we sit down and we start talking about the Lord and we start listening about the Lord, what we are actually doing is brahma satram. Imagine. And that is what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu calls as Sankirtana Yajna. Because again, when you chant his names, you sing his names, that is also Yajna. So the whole process of bhakti is Yajna. And what does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita? We were just reading. Yajnatart karmano nyatra. That you must do all your karma for Yajna, for the Supreme Lord Vishnu. So, Satram. And what was the reason for doing it? Swargaya Lokaya. Swargaya. The word Swargaya means Gaya means Gayati. Okay, now there are two meanings. Swargaya can mean for heaven, for achieving Swarga. Okay, that is one meaning. The other is to say Swargaya, like Urugaya. Swarga, Swaha means the higher planets. We say na Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. So Swaha is the higher planets. Okay, Swar. Gaya, Yatra Gayanti. So where in the higher planets, the one who is glorified. So who is glorified? Lord Vishnu. Swargaya Lokaya. So Swargaya means Vishnu. Lokaya for attaining his planet, Vishnu's planet, which means they were performing a sacrifice so that they could go back to Vaikuntha. So, Sahasra Samam Asata. So they all sat down and began to perform this sacrifice which they wanted to do for 1,000 years. Any questions there? Okay. Share my screen again. So here, Prabhupada makes a nice point in his purport. He says, Lord Vishnu is just like a great tree, and all others, including the demigods, men, siddhas, charanas, vidyadharas, and other living entities are like branches, twigs, and leaves of that tree. By pouring water on the root of the tree, all the parts of the tree are automatically nourished. Only those branches and leaves which are detached cannot be so satisfied. Detached branches and leaves dry up gradually, despite all watering attempts. Similarly, human society, when it is detached from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like detached branches and leaves, is not capable of being watered, and one attempting to do so is simply wasting his energy and resources. What does that mean? Would somebody like to explain that?
Similarly, when we do, we offer our service to the Lordship. So we like doing like bhakti yoga, like you said, devotional service, Mataji. So when you pour water to the plants, you pour it to the roots and also the branches and twigs, because like you say, we are doing bhakti. Why do we go to different, like round the bush? Why do we have to go through the demigod channels and then to reach Krishna? Why can't we go directly to Krishna by performing the bhakti service?
Okay, very nice. Yes, Prabhuji, you had something to say?
Same thing I wanted to say in different manner. It's okay.
No, say it, Prabhuji. It's all right.
See, when we follow the rituals properly and without attachment and with full devotion, how the water goes to the root, like that, the bhakti and all, it goes in our heart and it changes our mental position and attain the God, like that. The same thing applies here.
Yeah. And for that, see, here, what Prabhupada, the point that he's making is that Krishna is the tree, and all other living entities are stuck to the tree. They are parts of the tree.
Yeah.
In
So,
Bhagavad Gita, it's mentioned nicely, Mataji, the banyan tree.
yeah, the banyan tree, of course, it refers to the Vedas being the
Yeah.
leaves and all the living entities in 15th chapter. But
Urdhva Moolam.
Urdhva Moolam Adha Shakam. But here, the point Prabhupada is trying to make is we have to remember that we are attached to Krishna. See, the problem is most of the time we forget. People tend to forget, and most living entities don't even realize that they are actually a part of that supreme. There are so many people who don't even believe in God. God doesn't exist. So Prabhupada here, the point he's trying to make is that we all belong to that tree. And if we want to survive, we have to stay on that tree. When a branch or a leaf falls away from a tree, it dries up and it dies. You don't hear of a leaf falling off and then, growing again. It doesn't happen. So what he's saying is detached branches and leaves dry up gradually despite all watering attempts. So how much ever somebody who is not connected to the Lord, how much ever you try and bolster them up spiritually or materially, if they are not connected to Krishna, they will not progress. That is the point that Prabhupada is trying to make here. So if somebody who's not Krishna conscious, you can go and, he can read the Bhagavad Gita, he can read the Bhagavatam, he can read the Vedas, he can do everything. But it's not going to be of any use, simply wasting his energy and resources. And he says the modern materialistic society is detached from its relation to the Supreme Lord, and all its plans, which are being made by atheistic leaders, are sure to be baffled in every step. Yet they do not wake up to this. Okay. Text 5. त एकदा तु मुनयः प्रातर्हुतहुताग्नयः सत्कृतं सूतमासीनं प्रपृच्छुर् ते, the sages, ekada, one day. Now you remember ekada, yeah? Sarvada, kada. What does that? So all these words relate to time. Remember in our Sanskrit class we did that? Yeah. So kada, ekada, sarvada, tada, ekada, one day. Tu, but munayaha, sages, pratah, morning, huta, burning, huta agnayaha, the sacrificial fire, satkritam, due respects, sutam, Sri Suta Goswami, Asinam, seated on, praprachuhu, made inquiries, idam, on this, as follows, adarat, with due regards. One day, after finishing their morning duties by burning a sacrificial fire and respectfully offering a seat to Srila Suta Goswami, the great sages made earnest inquiries about the following matters. So here, the only thing I wanted to say was about Munayaha. Now, who is a Muni? That comes up in Bhagavad Gita 256. So, Dukkeshvanudvignamanaha Sukheshu Vigataspruha Vitaraga Bhayakrodha Stitadhir Muniruchyate. The one who is not disturbed in mind, even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage, Muni, of steady mind. So all these people who were gathered, all these sages, they were rishis, they were munis. So rishi, remember we said rishi is someone who can actually take us across the material existence with their knowledge. So they were very, very, very learned people. And munis, they were very, very controlled. Their senses were all under their control. So one day in the morning, they had finished performing all their morning sacrifices. And at that time, Suta Goswami comes. So they very, very respectfully call him and they give him a place to sit, asinam, and then they ask him questions with a lot of respect. Now here, Suta, the word Suta actually means one of a low caste. Yeah. So Suta actually means one who has a Brahmana mother and a Kshatriya father. Now, different acharyas have different, some acharyas have actually said, no, we're not actually talking in terms of his birth. He was divine born and so on. And the others say, oh, no, no, no. We are actually talking about somebody who's a low-born person, but whoever he was offered a place, of a high place. Now, asina is a higher seat. Okay, so this is like a vyasasana. So in a gathering, the one who's more important, whose words you should hear, is normally given a place which is higher. And amongst rishis and all, the one who has more knowledge is given a higher place. So the one who they all wanted to hear from was Suta Goswami. So they did not just give him a high seat. The word here, adarat. In Hindi, we have the word na adar se. Adarat. With a lot of respect. So they gave him a lot of respect. And they very respectfully placed their questions before him. So what did they say? Text 6. Rushayah uchuhu Tvaya khalu puranani Setihasani chanagha Akyatanyapit adhitani Akhyatanyapyadhitani Dharma shastrani yanyuta. Rishayaha, the sages, Uchuhu, said, Tvaya, by you, Khalu, undoubtedly, Puranani, the supplements to the Vedas with illustrative narrations, Sa Itihasani, along with the histories, Cha and Anagha, freed from all vices, Akhyatani, explained, Api, although, adhitani, well read, dharma shastrani, scriptures giving right directions to progressive life, yani, all these, uta, said. Okay. The sages said, respected Suta Goswami, you are completely free from all vice. You are well versed in all religious scriptures, the Puranas and histories, for you have gone through them under proper guidance and have also explained them. So, text 6, 7, and 8 is where the rishis praise Suta Goswami before they actually start asking their questions. So, by this, what do we understand? That before you actually ask someone to do something for you, you have to be very respectful, you have to be very sweet in your talk, and you have to praise them. You have to tell them, look, I know you can do this because you have already done this you in the past. You have this capability, you have this knowledge. Now I please request you to do this for me. You don't normally just go, hey, just do this, no? Especially, you can do that to someone who's very close, your friend, but some elderly person, you can't go and do that. So when we read our prayers also, we will see that whoever is speaking those prayers, they will first glorify the Lord. So if you, so which is whose prayers come first in the Bhagavatam? Who can tell me?
Brahma?
No. So the first canto is all about Parikshit Maharaj. Okay. So it starts with you'll have you will see that the story there is more from the Mahabharata, where Lord Shri Krishna is going back now to Dwaraka after the Mahabharata war. And the first big prayer that really comes up is Kunti Maharani's prayers. Yeah. But even before that, there are two very small prayers. The first prayer is by Arjuna. Okay. Arjuna sees we have the whole story of Ashwatthama, right? So Ashwatthama decides that he has to take revenge. He doesn't like the fact that they have been defeated. So what does he do? He goes to the camp at night and he kills the 5 children. Pandava's sons, the 5 children. And in the morning, when Draupadi sees that, she is distraught. The whole camp is distraught. Everyone is angry. And Arjuna can see that it's Ashwatthama who's done it. And he makes a promise to Draupadi. He says, I promise you that I shall bring back Ashwatthama's head. You shall stand on his head and take your bath today. Okay. Fierce words. And he and Krishna set out. Krishna is again Arjuna's charioteer. They drive out. When Ashwatthama sees them coming, he panics and he releases the Brahmastra. Now the Brahmastra is coming burning towards Arjuna. And what does Arjuna do? It's very interesting. It's very interesting to see what a devotee does. What does Arjuna do? He doesn't immediately take out his weapons. No. He doesn't turn to the Lord and say, Krishna, Brahmastra, bless me, I'm going. He doesn't do that. He turns around and he folds his hands and he stands in front of Krishna and he goes, Krishna Krishna Mahabhaho, Bhaktanam Abhayankaraha, Tvameko Dahyamananam, Apavargosi Samsrutehe. He says, Krishna Krishna Mahabaho. So powerful you are. Bhaktanam abhayankaraha. This is such a fearful situation. The universe is burning up, but you are Bhaktanam abhayankaraha. Whoever is surrendered to you, O Krishna, you make them completely fearless. Bhaktanam abhayankaraha. Tvam eko dahyamananam. Tvam eka, you are the only one, O Krishna. Dahyamananam apavargo asi samsritehe. Who can take those who are burning in this material fire. You're the only one who can take them out. In the fire of material existence. He's not talking about the fire of the Brahmastra, he's talking about the fire of material existence, Apavarga. You know, in Sanskrit, we have the Pavarga. Pa, Pa, Ba, Bha, Ma. So Pavarga is called, it's called material world. Why? Because Pa means
Papam.
huh?
Papam.
No, Pa means Parishrama.
Parishrama.
What are we doing in this material world? Working like crazy. And because of that, what happens? Pain. We work so hard that you know how horses and animals, when they work very hard, they get bubbles, foam around their mouth. That's pain. Pa, pa, ba. Ba is vyartha. It's all for no use. Bha, bhaya. After doing everything, there is so much fear. And ma, final end, mrityu. So, it is called the Pavarga. And who is the one who can take us out of this Pavarga? Apavarga. Krishna makes this Pavarga a Pavarga. So, Arjuna prays to him, he says, Apavargosi samskrit. You are the only one, Krishna, who can take us out of this. And then he tells Krishna, see, this is coming. What should I do? Does Arjuna not know what he should do? But this is respect. What should I do? Krishna says, Arjuna, release your arrow, release your Brahmastra. He doesn't know how to take it back, so you release yours and you take both your Brahmastras back. And that is what Arjuna does. And then they chase after Ashwatthama, they catch him, they bind him, and they bring him back. When they bring him back, Draupadi, who's really very kind-hearted, looks at Ashwatthama bound up like an animal, and she says, no, 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 please release him. Please release him. He is the son of your Guru. We can never repay what our Guru has done for us. We cannot kill his son. And the way I am crying for my sons, I don't want his mother to cry for her son. Release him. Everybody agrees, except, guess who? Bhima, yes. Bhim says, no way. He killed innocent boys. He killed children. In the Dharma Shastra, there is a saying, you cannot kill one who is matta, pramatta, unmatta, supta. So matta means one who is under the influence of liquor, intoxicated. Pramatta, who's a bit of an idiot. Unmatta, who's lost his thinking faculties due to other problems. Supta, one who is sleeping. Balaha, children. And Strayaha, women. These 6 people cannot be killed. How? He has killed them, he must be punished. So Krishna turns to Arjuna and says, okay, solve this problem. You promised Draupadi you would cut his head off. He is a Brahmana, so you can't kill a Brahmana. But he has done all these crimes, so he needs to be punished. What are you going to do? So Arjuna takes out his sword, shaves his hair, takes away. Ashwatthama was born with a mani on his forehead, a jewel. He scoops that out and kicks him out of the camp. So a Brahmana who has committed such a heinous sin, how is he punished? You take away his respect, you take away his wealth, and you take away his house. And you kick him out. That is how a Brahmana is dealt with. Okay. So Ashwatthama goes out, and now he's even more angry. So what does he decide to do? He sends the Brahmastra again, and this time he decides he wants to vanquish the Pandava dynasty. So Uttara, Abhimanyu's wife, is pregnant. He sends the Brahmastra at her womb. So the second prayer in the Bhagavatam is by Uttara. She comes running out. She's a young girl, 14, 15 years old. She comes running out. Outside are her fathers-in-law, because the Pandavas are her fathers-in-law. There are all the other women there. There are other guards. There is everybody there. But she comes running straight to Krishna. And she prays to him. And how does she pray to him? Imagine the urgency. Okay? The Brahmastra is chasing after her. And does she say, Krishna, protect me? No, she says, Pahi, Pahi, Mahayogin. Deva, Deva, Jagatpate. Pahi, Pahi, protect me, Mahayogi. You are the supreme mystic. You can do anything. See, again, praise. By saying just that word, Mahayogi, what has she done? She's praising him. Pahi, Pahi, Mahayogin, Deva, Deva, Jagatpate. You are the Deva of all the Devatas. You are one who's worshipped by all the Devatas. You are Jagatpati, the Lord of the universe. Pahi, Pahi, Mahayogin, Deva, Deva, Jagatpate. Natvad Abhaya Pashye. Other than you, I do not see anyone who can give me Abhayam. Fearlessness. Natvad Abhayam Pashye. Yatra Mrityu Parasparam. Around me, where there is death all around me, I can only see you, my Lord, as the person who can give me fearlessness, who can protect me, protect me, protect me. Pahi, Pahi, Mahayogin. So, the way to approach the Lord, the way to approach a senior person for anything, we learn that here, right? From the 6th verse of the Bhagavatam. What do we learn? That we approach them very respectfully and we first praise them. And then we request whatever we want, which is what the sages here have done. So, what do they say? They say, Tvaya by you, Tvaya khalu puranani, se itihasani. So, cha anagha. Firstly, they call him anagha. Now, remember, this is not anagaha, right? So, anagha means it is sambodhana. So, they're calling him. They're saying, O sinless one, O pure soul. So, Anagha means one who has not committed any sins. What does that mean? It means you are a very pure soul. Oh, pure soul. By you, everything. What is it? You know all the Puranas. You know all the Itihasas. You know everything. akhyatani. You have already explained all this in the past. Api adhitani. And you have also studied all of this. Along with Purana, Itihas, what have you done? You have also studied Dharma Shastra, like the Manu Samhita. There are so many different Dharma Shastras. So he's an expert on all of that. So they say, you are completely free from all vice. You're well versed in all religious scriptures, the Puranas and histories, for you have gone through them under proper guidance and have also explained them. So here when we say adhitani, it doesn't mean that Sutta Goswami picked up the books and read it himself. It means that he was guided by a guru. And that is how he was able to understand everything so perfectly. Okay. In the purport, Prabhupada says, when we talk about free from all vices, he says the four major vices of Kali Yuga are illicit connection with women, animal slaughter, intoxication, and speculative gambling of all sorts. Okay, so buying a lotto ticket is speculative gambling of all sorts. Even buying a ticket from your school charity is speculative gambling of all.
But Krishna, but if you strike the lotto and you give the money to temple, that is spiritualized already.
You're not going there.
Jananda Maharaj approved it.
True. But not everyone is made of such high caliber, no? Money has the power to corrupt. That's the problem. Okay. So then, so here again, Prabhupada makes another point. Hearing is called Shravana and explaining is called Kirtana. The two processes of Shravana and Kirtana are of primary importance to progressive spiritual life. Only one who has properly grasped the transcendental knowledge from the right source by submissive hearing can properly explain the subject. Okay. So when the sages are saying that you have akhyatani and adhitani, it means you have heard and you have spoken. So Shravanam and Kirtanam have both been performed by you. Okay. Look at the next verse. Yani Veda Vidam Shrestho
यानि वेदविदां श्रेष्ठो
Bhagavan Badarayanah
भगवान्
Bhagavan
बादरायणः
Vadarayana
Anye Cha Munaya Suta
अन्ये च
Anyecha
मुनयः
Munaya Sutta
Paravara Vido Viduhu
Paravira Vido Vido
Yani, all that, Veda Vidam, scholars of the Vedas, Shreshtaha, senior most, Bhagavan, incarnation of Godhead, Badarayanaha, Vyasadev, Anye, others, Cha, and Munayaha, the sages, Suta, O Suta Goswami, Paravara Vidaha, among the learned scholars, one who is conversant with physical and metaphysical knowledge, Viduhu, one who knows. Being the eldest learned Vedantist, O Suta Goswami, you are acquainted with the knowledge of Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of Godhead. And you also know other sages who are fully versed in all kinds of physical and metaphysical knowledge. Okay. So, here there are two things which they say that Suta Goswami knows. One, he has the knowledge of Vyasadeva. Now the question arises, what is the knowledge of Vyasadeva? So till Vyasadeva wrote the Bhagavatam, his focus was very nirguna. His focus was more towards Brahma. It's only in the Bhagavatam that he actually talks about Krishna. So Suta Goswami knows both about Nirguna and Saguna Brahma. Okay? And he says, you also know other sages who are fully versed in all kinds of physical and metaphysical knowledge. Physical knowledge is knowledge about the universe. Metaphysical is more subtle knowledge, like knowledge of the soul and so on. Okay, so that's fairly straightforward. And Prabhupada makes a point here. He says one can sit on the Vyasasana only after being conversant in all systems of philosophy, so that one can present fully the theistic views of the Bhagavatam in defiance of all other systems. So you remember we had talked about the Shad Darshana long ago. I don't know if you remember. The 6 philosophies um, of Sanatana Dharma. Does anybody remember them? Too long ago, huh? Okay. So
This reference, the 6 philosophies I checked was Chaitanya Charita Amrita on Madhya. It was mentioned once about the 6 philosophies, the Gautama, Kanada,
that's
Kapila,
the one.
Patanjali, Jaimini, Ashtavakra.
Yeah. So in fact, it's Vedavyasa, the 6th one.
Yeah.
So the 6 darshanas basically are Sankhya, Yoga. So Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. Yeah. So you have Sankhya, which is by the atheistic Kapila, not Kapila Rishi, who is a form of Lord Shri Krishna himself. So Sankhya, Vaisheshika, which is by Kannada, Nyaya, Gautama, Vedanta by Vedavyasa, Yoga, of course, Patanjali, and Mimamsa, which is Jaimini, Uttara Mimamsa.
What does jnana means, Mataji?
Nyaya,
Nyaya.
yeah, Nyaya. Nyaya means logic.
Oh, logic. And that is from Kannada.
Kannada.
Kannada. And Kapila is the atheistic one, Sankhya.
Sankhya, yeah.
And then Patanjali is yoga.
Yes. Just give me 1 minute. Let me try and pull that. We actually did a small, I don't remember if I did it as a separate. Well, never mind. It's not very important right now. We'll come to it later.
Mataji, can I ask you, please? Can you just repeat? Just now you said about fully versed in all kinds of physical and metaphysical knowledge. Physical means what? Sorry?
Physical, it relates to the material world.
Okay. And metaphysical knowledge?
Metaphysical would be more, which is not gross, so more subtle knowledge. So relating to the mind, relating to the Pancha Mahabhutas, earth, air, water, fire, ether, how they all work together, and all the rest of it.
Thank you.
Is it just like the Sankhya?
Yes. So this knowledge is there in all the 6 darshanas. It is just how it is presented that is different. So yeah, so what we might do is in the next class, because we don't have too much time right now. In the next class, I'll pull out those the PowerPoint slides that I had made, and we'll have a quick run through that just to understand what the 6 philosophies are. very, very, very from the top.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So, yeah, we'll do that. So coming back to where we were. So Prabhupada, he makes this point. He says, one can sit on the Vyasasana only after being conversant in all systems of philosophy. So one needs to actually know all these six, the Shad Darshana, before one sits on the Vyasasana. Why? Because anybody can question you or they can refute you by presenting their philosophy. So not just the six, so the six includes your Advaita philosophy as well. Although, okay, so all of it has to be completely understood, and your own philosophy should be completely understood so that anybody presents their philosophy and tries to challenge you, you're able to protect it. You're able to protect your philosophy. And that is something which is actually the legacy of all the acharyas starting from Ramanujacharya. You know, he is the one who went against Shankaracharya. He was the first. Before him, there were people who stood up to Shankaracharya, but not in that very systematic way that Ramanujacharya has done. And after him came Madhvacharya. So all these are heavyweights. And we come in the line of Madhvacharya, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya. So it's very important that we understand all the philosophies, that we make an effort to, and if we don't, then we don't present ourselves as people who really know everything because we want to sit on the Vyasasana. Because sitting on the Vyasasana is a position of respect. Okay. We'll just do verse 8 and then we'll stop. Vittatvam saumyastat sarvam
Vetatvam saumya tat sarvam
tatvatastadanugrah tatvatastadanugrah tatvatastad anugrahat
tatvatat
Tadanugrahat.
tatvatastadanugrahat
tatvatata anugrahat
Tadanugrahat.
brūyu snigdhasya shishyasya
brūyu snigdhasya shishyasya
guravo guhyamapyuta.
guravo guhyamapyuta.
Vitta, you are very well conversant. Tvam, your honor. Saumya, one who is pure and simple. Tat, those. Sarvam, all. Tattvataha, in fact. Tat, there. Anugrahat, by the favor of. Bruyuhu, will tell. Snigdhasya, of the one who is submissive. Shishyasya, of the disciple. Guravaha, the spiritual masters. Guhyam, secret. Api uta, endowed with. Translation. And because you are submissive, your spiritual masters have endowed you with all their favors. Therefore, you can tell us all you have learned from them. He says, Vitta Tvam. Vitta. This comes from the word Veda. Okay, Veda means knowledge. Vitta. So you have full knowledge. Tvam. Saumya. Now, from this verse, we learn two things. What must the speaker of the Bhagavatam and the hearer of a Bhagavatam, what are the qualities that they must have? Okay. So the first one here is Saumya. So earlier, before this, we also saw that he was Anagha, right? And not only was he Anagha, in the next verse, we saw that he was Veda Vidam. Veda Vidam Shreshtaha. That he knew, he had complete knowledge. So first, he was he was sinless. Then he had all the knowledge. And now we come to the third, Saumya. Saumya means one who's simple, very pure, not diplomatic. One who'll say something and do something else, just try to play politics. Not that kind of a person. He's very Saumya. And the other word we see here is snigdhasya, of the one who is submissive, Prabhupada says. And Sridhara Swami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Swami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, they all translate it as Premavataha, one who has a lot of love for his seniors, for his gurus. Snigdhasya. Why? Because he's Snigdhasya Shishyasya. So a Shishya who has a lot of love for his gurus. Snigdhasya Shishyasya Guravo. And then what do they say? Vettatvam Saumya Tat Sarvam Tattvataha Tad Anugrahat. Tad Anugrahat. So your gurus have given you a lot of blessings. And by their blessings, you now know everything. You were a very sweet student. And because of that, your gurus, Guravo, Guhyamapi Uta, they have told you what is most secret also. Guhyamapi, they have told you what is most secret also. Uta. Now that you please teach us. Even though it is very secret between guru and disciple, please bless us with that knowledge. So this is what they request him. And then after that, we'll look at what it is that they want from him. So after this, the sages will ask Suta Goswami 6 questions. So next week, we'll try and see what those 6 questions are. Okay. So any questions? Yes, Prabhuji?
What is Goswami and Srila and all that? Any
Oh,
meaning especially or?
No. So Srila is another form of writing Shri.
Okay.
Huh? So Srila, Shri, both mean the same thing. Shrimad, Srila, Shri. Usually the Srila form is not very commonly used, but it's very extensively used in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. We find that being very extensively used in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Goswami is the name that is given, the title that is given to a person who has complete control over his senses. So usually that is given, the title Swami and Goswami are given to someone who can control their senses. Go means senses, Swami means one who has control.
Okay, thank you.
So like you have, if you most of your North Indian temples,
Only
they will have
Goswami.
Goswamis. Yeah. South Indian, you'll have
South.
mostly Swamis. Yeah.
Mataji,
Yes, Mataji.
are the words Rishi and Muni interchangeable?
Yes.
Because they have this.
Yes. Now there is the Bhagavad Gita actually does say, doesn't it, that one who is it the Bhagavad Gita where it comes?
Muninam Kavihi. Some.
Yeah, no. Where it says that one cannot be called a Muni unless, yes, in the Bhagavad Gita, one cannot be called a Muni unless he is busy presenting a different point of view. So Munis tend to be people who have a lot of knowledge and who do engage in a lot of debate. Rishis, on the other hand, tend to be people who are well endowed with knowledge, no doubt, but who tend to shy away. However, that does not mean that when a rishi is challenged, he will not engage in debate. And when a muni doesn't find somebody, he will not sit down quietly and do his. Yeah. So yes, they can both be interchangeable because we sometimes call Narada Rishi and Narada Muni.
And what is yogi here means, Mataji?
Where
So if you say rishi, then muni. What about yogi in chapter in verse 647? Bhagavad Gita chapter 647, when you say on the topmost yogi.
yoginam api sarvesham madgatinam. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the yogi that is being talked about in the Bhagavad Gita is the Ashtanga yogi. So the one who is doing Ashtanga yoga in order to purify himself and connect to the Paramatma inside.
Okay.
Yeah. So he only wants to perceive the Paramatma inside. So that's the yogi.
Yeah. Okay.
Huh. And so Krishna says, out of all such yogis who are trying to do this process, that yogi who connects to me, yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana.
But he's
One
connecting to
places his heart on me. I'm sorry, what was that?
But he's only. But you see, we got Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, three aspects. So, but now but why that part I'm a little bit confused when you say the topmost of yogi api sarvesham. So that one is the topmost yogi, but he's only focusing on the Paramatma. He's not focusing on the absolute truth, which is the Bhagavan. How can that shloka is contradicting when he's, I don't know my thoughts. So I'm
I
asking.
understand. Yeah, no. So actually, the yogi initially doesn't even know who the Paramatma is. So he is only trying to look inside and connect.
Okay.
Okay. And Krishna, what does he say? Later on, he says that when Avyakta, well, in chapter 9, what does he say? That when you try to connect to the Avyakta, it is very, very difficult. Uh, oh, uh,
Okay, let's look at we talk to Google.
yeah. So Krishna says, when Arjuna asks, what is
Verse 4, Mataji?
verse?
Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina.
No, that. Oh, sorry. I sorry. Chapter 12, my dear, not chapter 9. My mistake. यत्वक्षरम निर्देशम अव्यक्तं पर्युपासते सर्वत्र गमचिन्त्यं च कूटस्थमचलं ध्रुवम्.
Text 5, yeah.
Yeah, so what he says here is, but those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth. So he's talking about Brahman. By controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. And then he says in the next verse, but that process is very, very difficult. So for those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. Now in the Bhagavatam, right in the first canto, right in the second canto itself, it will tell you how you should, a devotee must look into the heart and see the form of the Lord standing there, and how they must actually see that Lord, how they must think of him and pray to him. Okay, that makes it personal. But when you're simply sitting there trying to imagine and figure out who it is inside without having that concept of this is what he looks like, that is very, very difficult. So that is where Krishna is saying, Yoginam api sarvesham madgaten. So stop trying to think of something which is not there and trying to see that. Instead, just think of me. when you're sitting down and doing your yoga. Make sense?
Thank you, Mataji. I got another question, Mataji.
Yes.
On the text 6, pronunciation.
Uh-huh.
How do you pronounce the third line? Akhyatani. Yep, text 6, the third one.
Yeah.
There's,
Tanya Tita.
yeah.
Adhitani, that one, na?
How do you pronounce the third
Akhyate,
line?
akhyatanyapyadhitani. So remember, the Y goes
To
and
A.
joins up with the A here, and this Y goes and joins up with the A here.
Okay, all right, okay.
So akhyatanyapyadhitani.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. Now I have a request. Tomorrow, can we please have class say at 5:30 to 6:30? Because I need to go out around 7.
Okay, no problem.
Can, no problem.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Um,
much, Mataji.
Tomorrow Kanta Mataji is doing the,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
Mataji.
you're okay, na Mataji?
Yeah, should be fine.
Okay.
It's tomorrow how it happens.
Okay. No, I meant about the time.
Oh, time is fine with me. No problem.
Okay, okay.
5:30 to 6:30, Panji. Means it's about 1:30 your time.
1.5 hours.
Yeah, there's nothing.
1.5 hours before.
It's okay.
Okay.
Can.
Okay.
Thank you, Mataji.
Okay. Thank you
Hare
so
Krishna.
much.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We'll see you
Hare
tomorrow.
Krishna.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
5:30.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Mataji.
5:30.
Yeah.
5:30.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare